Robert Morales with the Morales Business Networking Group here with...
And I am Stella Yeo. I'm a local insurance agent here in Arizona with Liberty Mutual Insurance.
If you like what you're seeing and you want to leave a comment, go ahead and leave it below. If you definitely like what you're seeing, leave a little love button because we like the loves, right?
Of course. That's always, loves are always, show the love.
So if you want to share this video or other videos, please share it as well. We're here again promoting small businesses. Ms. Stella Yeo is in insurance, and so we're here to know a little bit about insurance and kind of the things that go on with what insurance has all to do with.
All right, yeah, no. So, I mean, a day in the life of, right? Of course, I always look to put people in a better situation than they currently are insurance-wise. But my goal is also to make sure that they're put in a situation coverage-wise, and I go a little bit more into detail too with what assets they're protecting, just to look for gaps. In the event of a claim, a lot of people, that's when they find out what their policy really is missing. Growing up, I always kind of looked at it as a gamble. I always thought like, oh, well, you're going to either be paying a lot for insurance that you're never going to use, or you're going to be saving an extra nickel, and then when you need it, you're going to find out that paying that extra $20 was really worth it. Now that I am on the other side as an insurance agent, I see the importance behind it. I mean, obviously, there's the aspect of if you have a home with a mortgage, it's forced. And then if you have, you know, an auto that has a lien, you have to have it, right?
Some of us do, don't, maybe.
Right. I get to hear about all the stories that we think are never going to happen to us. You know, we think about like, especially here in Arizona, you don't deal with a lot of hurricanes, and we don't deal with very many weather catastrophes. But there's certainly a lot of claims here still that are pertaining to other things we don't think about. So now that I experience that on the other end, I always make sure that people kind of fully understand.
The one thing I know about Stella is that she's pretty much down to business. There's no fooling around. This is straight to business. I appreciate that, honestly.
But there's always room for coffee. I mean,
yes, with I just need my steer stick. I didn't get my steer stick, so I had to kind of finger it. The lighter side of Stella Yeo. Right? Mm-hmm. What does that look like? What kind of like takes you out of your box, I guess?
I mean, I guess there's a story to everything, right? Every time people pick up on something that they love, there's always an experience that led them to that. It was in the year maybe 2006. That was the first time I went to Sedona, and yeah, and I grew up in Arizona, but it took me a while. And I just remember we hiked up a mountain. We actually climbed up a mountain, pretty high up there. And I remember that was the very first time I heard silence. We don't realize here that, you know, when you're kind of just sitting in your apartment and sitting in an office, you think you hear silence, but you don't, because there's the cars and the AC, and there's things that our subconscious kind of zones out. But that was the first time, and I just remember it almost felt surreal, like the world just stopped for a second. And I felt peace. I literally felt like the whole world just paused. And so ever since then, whenever the world gets crazy and whenever things get hectic, I search for that again.
The one thing I know about Stella too is that she's a very spiritual person. Mm-hmm. She's very faith-based. I guess the biggest thing for you has always been spirituality. Tell us how it's influenced your business and kind of how you help.
Of course, there's always been the search. I remember just even as a young kid, one of the biggest questions that I kind of had was, of course, where did we come from? Who created humans? Like, what happened? And of course, like, I was actually raised Catholic, so I always searched for the whys. And that obviously took me down a very interesting path. Again, searching for that peace, searching for that calm, that stillness. And ultimately, you do feel there is a greater being out there, being God. So
this is Robert Morales with the Morales Business Networking Group with Ms. Stella Yeo again. We're here talking about insurance and some of the ongoings of spirituality, as well as her life, because we like to get to know people and who they are. If you like, again, what you're seeing, hit the hit the
love button. Give us some love.
comment and share as you will, and then hit us up on YouTube with the subscribe button below. Part of the business network is we go out again and reach out to people who are in business, and we highlight not only what they do but who they are. And in this process, it's been a pleasure getting to know Miss Yeo over the last couple of years, and Insight Magazine. So if you guys want a copy of Insight Magazine, you can't get it because you had to come to the meeting or call me or text me. So I read a little bit about your story, and you put some highlights in the magazine itself. And the one thing about you is you're very kind of hidden. You don't share a whole lot. And again, we probably won't get into it here, but you did share a significant amount in this piece, which is admirable because I think it's a sign that you're kind of coming out of your shell. Talk about growing up with parents of a small business, because I think that's one of the things we kind of forget about when we're starting a business and when we have kids, is they get kind of pushed to the side a little bit.
I remember when we had summers, we didn't take vacations. A lot of times my summers were spent in my parents' office, kind of helping them out. At that time, of course, you're young and you don't understand really. You kind of it's natural to feel like you want to fit in. All my friends had their parents with their nice, Monday through Friday jobs. They would always talk about their weekends, and I was going to events with my parents on weekends, and they would talk about just their day in a life of them, and I wanted to fit in. They would work a lot, and sometimes I wouldn't really see them until they were done with their day. As my dad would talk to us, his biggest thing would say, "Do you want to grow up and have someone tell you what to do?" And I kind of, in my head at that time, thought, well, yeah, it's called a job.
How old were you when that happened?
Gosh, it's a blur because he said it so much that I can't remember the first time he said that. And
so to help some of the people watching, what kind of business were your parents in?
So they had primarily it was a special events business, meaning they had video photography. They partnered with a limousine company, and they partnered with like a salon or a hall company. So they would just put these big packages together for weddings, sweet 16s.
And I'm sure, like an event planning business, when you're doing event planning, it's all hours of the day. It's not just an 8 to 5.
They had a lot of appointments. They would always, have appointments. I remember just seeing they had a big kind of calendar, this big book of contracts, and my dad had this thing of just business cards of everyone he kind of networked with. Growing up, I always just kind of saw that as like too much, too hectic, and now I'm there.
This is Robert Morales with Morales Business Networking Group, here again with
Stella Yeo with Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Here promoting small businesses. If you like what you're seeing, again, please hit that love button because we love it when you love us.
Show us some love.
We like the loves. We love the like loves.
We love the loves.
The like loves.
We like the likes.
And we were talking about your family business and kind of how you grew up as a kid. I think people really need to know if they're going to start a business and they do have children, what were the good and bad growing up with parents who just were that directed? And
the bad was the schedule, of course. We wanted to do, a lot of events on weekends and summer vacations, but the family business kind of always just took over. We didn't get to see a lot of family events because of the family business. But the good is just ever since we were kids, we kind of knew the value of $1. We knew what it meant to earn $1. Growing up, I always saw what kind of goes on behind every project, the amount of work. But now looking back, it definitely was like a blessing just to see the passion that it takes to start a business, to own a business, to run a business. It's not for everybody.
And do you think that kind of contributed to who you are today?
Definitely. It definitely did. I never saw my parents punching in a clock, or I never saw them, have to respond to a boss. Now looking back, I realize it all, and it really truly reflected on their income.
Again, reading a little bit in the magazine and trolling on Facebook, because I'm I'm a troll. So. I'm trying to get to know somebody more. It sounded like your family was going through some hard times as well, and you were knocking on doors.
Do you remember when the real estate market kind of crashed?
Yeah.
And I served the 5-day notices, those initial 5-day notices after we would purchase their home. I saw how all these homeowners kind of just really fell victim of the way the market happened. There was a boom where the market just skyrocketed and everybody saw equity. They saw dollar signs, so they took out a second mortgage. And then when we had a little bit of an economic downfall, what happened is then all these foreclosures kicked in. And these were all still hardworking families that just kind of fell victim of the way the system played out. I hear it's explained in a movie called The Big Short, which I haven't seen yet.
Is that a plug for The Big Short?
I would love to. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard what I'm talking about is basically that.
And that was prior to the insurance part there, right? That was the...
Of course, this was in 2012. It taught me a lot about, just dealing with the investors and then dealing with all the people losing their home.
So to get into, I guess, your history a little bit, why pick insurance as your go-to career choice?
I was actually in a place where I already knew that I didn't want to be in a paycheck to paycheck industry. And at that time, I actually had a decent promotion offer with the company I was with. So to be honest with you, it was more of an offer at first, but of course I would not have taken it if I didn't feel fitting. And the more and more I learned about the company I work for, I realized that this really was a good opportunity. I took the leap of faith, so to speak. Because as you know, it's definitely an entrepreneurial role where you don't have that safety net, where you have to really push through the hard times.
So taking that leap, from I'm guessing 9 to 5 before to being in insurance, do you want to tell everybody kind of the thought process and kind of what you went through to kind of get through that or to take that step?
So the way it happened, because I just thought exactly the thought that came into my mind.
Tapped into something good.
Yes. Yeah. So once again, I was already in a place where I just felt off. I felt like I no longer kind of belonged there, like I was ready to take a stretch into something different. When I had this promotion offer through my job, I was really at a fork in the road. And because at the same time I had this offer, I would have been set, but it would have just been set, like stagnant kind of. And at the same time I got the offer letter with Liberty Mutual, and it was scary. It's scary because you want comfort. You want to know that nothing's going to change. But at the same time, I knew the potential. As I kind of lost sleep over it one night, I kind of prayed about it and I said, just give me a sign, which road should I take? And the second that I was, praying that, the thought came over me, and it was entrepreneur. And at the same time, the conversation that I had with my, there was about 5, no, I'm kidding, there's 3 interviews for Liberty Mutual, but the very first one was the phone interview, right? And I remember when I was talking to the gentleman, he said, this is like an entrepreneur, you own your own business. Those were his exact words. And so at the same time, it's like both words just aligned, and I thought, that's it. This is it. I'm supposed to take this leap of faith, and I kind of felt led to it.
Advice for anybody kind of getting in the business now, kind of looking back when you started to now, if you're in insurance or looking and contemplating being an insurance agent, obviously Ms. Stella Yeo can.
Of course, reach out. It's definitely an interesting industry, and it's super rewarding as well.
To get back into you personally, I know you have a dog.
Yes.
So she is a dog owner. What kind of dog is it?
She's a collie husky mix.
It's a short one, right? It's a little short.
Yeah. So she's about 35 pounds. She's a lot smaller than she looks like in pictures. So
Yeah, we're going to try and put a picture up as we're going, if we can do that.
Yeah, don't let the pictures fool you. She's small.
Her name, by the way?
Mocha.
And the reason behind that?
They say never because when I first got her, I said, I don't want to give her a food name. I didn't want to name her like candy or sugar.
So a drink name?
Right, kind of.
Well, mocha's a color too, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and she kind of...
It's multifaceted.
She kind of looks like it. I mean, if you add like a lot of vanilla in there, and stir it up.
We'll try and put a couple pictures.
But I think what happened is I just said it. I just said it once, and her little ears perked up, and of course me, I'm like, oh, this is a sign, Mocha. And then, so that's how it happened.
People kind of connect with different people who have, animals, and I think that takes a different
Furbabies. You mean fur babies?
Oh boy, fur babies. I say dogs.
She's my baby.
The other interesting thing that I appreciate about you too is your fascination with books. So as long as I've known Stella, she's read, and we've kind of shared books in between things, and shared titles and different things. But what's the book you're into right now?
It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You're always going to take from a book, like I've shared with you before, what you're ready to take in that moment. So I like to go back sometimes and I'll pick up something new. So as I'm reading through it, I'm starting to say, okay, well, I apply those things.
Well, how about your favorite book? You want to tell everybody what the most profound book you've read so far?
The Bible. I'm kidding.
Well, why is that? Why are you kidding on that? Why the Bible? You said it came to mind.
I know. That's so true. Because there's a story in it to anything and everything that you're going through that you can learn from, if you're going through a heartbreak, if you're going through a financial hardship, if you're going through a loss, if you're going through disappointment, everything that we go through there is something in there, a word of advice that we're able to resonate with and that we're able to take from and grow from. So
what's wrong with that? The Bible is a perfectly good answer.
It is.
So besides the Bible, what's the biggest, or at least the most significant book you've come across?
It was the very first book that I shared with you, which is by Eckhart Tolle, called The Power of Now. That book makes you realize that we're hardly ever living in the moment. We're either worrying about something that might happen, therefore living in the future, or we are still dwelling on a heartache or a disappointment or something that already happened. So dwelling on it and going through the motions isn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
And that's just what we tend to do, though. And actually, that's actually one of my favorite quotes. I think it was the Dalai Lama, and I'm going to totally paraphrase because I can't quote it word by word, but he was asked what astounded him the most of mankind. They work their health off, basically, to gain all this money, right? And then they use all this money to recuperate their health. And in the end, they live as if they're never going to die, and then they die never having really lived. And that's kind of what we do, because we're constantly worrying about the future, working in this, and we don't really grasp life in the moment, all those kind of little things around us.
And if you worry too much, again, that's why we have insurance.
Right, exactly. So you don't have to worry about anything.
I find that very, very interesting. And so here again with Robert Morales Business Networking Group with Ms. Stella Yeo from Liberty Mutual, talking about insurance, spirituality, and the Dalai Lama. And Mocha. We can't
Of
forget
course, we can't forget Mocha.
Mocha's very special. So as we come to the end of our interview, is there any takeaways or anything you want to share with somebody starting a business? Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to, again, to talk about small business and entrepreneurship, but we're also here to get to know you a little bit better and kind of your perspective. So what is your perspective on somebody just either coming into insurance or starting their own business?
So the biggest thing is, if there's something holding you back, that fear that things might not pan out, what if you don't make it? You don't know until you're going to try it. You definitely want to, just kind of start surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, success-driven individuals that have learned a lot from having their own business or running their own show, because that's going to change a lot of ways that you do things without you making the mistakes yourself. If we can be humble enough and wise enough to learn from people that have been down that road, you get connected with some business owners that can share the failures.
Any last words that you would like to share with our audience? Our Facebook, whatever.
If you ever do have questions about what to expect, if insurance is something that you're thinking about, you want to go research and get some insight from, of course, reach out.
So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you,
Of course.
In what ways do we do that? What's your phone number?
602-810-5286.
And again, we'll provide the links below. Thank you again for joining us. Morales B2B. We have the link up in the description, as well as if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel, and we'll love you. We'll send you hearts in some way and somehow. But thanks. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.